The massive screen at the front of the United Earth Defense Council chamber displayed what everyone had feared for decades, proof that humanity wasn't alone in the universe, and our first visitors weren't coming in peace. Admiral Lee stood before the gathered council members, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic display showing hundreds of unknown vessels moving through the outer solar system. The room was dead silent except for the soft hum of air circulation systems and the occasional nervous shuffle of papers. The objects were first detected by our deep space monitoring stations near Pluto, she explained, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Initial estimates suggest a fleet of roughly 300 vessels, each approximately the size of our largest aircraft carriers. Someone in the back of the chamber whispered, "Dear God." The Admiral pretended not to hear. She zoomed in on one of the vessels, revealing its alien architecture, all sharp angles and geometric patterns that definitely weren't human-made. The ship's surface seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy that made it look like liquid metal under starlight. At their current speed, they'll reach Mars orbit in approximately 72 hours, she continued, pulling up a trajectory map. The red line of their approach cut through the solar system like a knife. What's more concerning is this. The display changed to show a communication readout. The message was simple, transmitted in perfect English on all frequencies. Your civilization will be incorporated into the hegemony. Resistance is futile. Council President Patel leaned forward in his chair, his fingers steepled under his chin. And we're certain this isn't some elaborate hoax. A test of our defense systems, perhaps. The Admiral shook her head. We've confirmed the signals are coming from the fleet. Their energy signatures are like nothing we've ever seen before. This is real, Mr. President. We're looking at humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, and they're not here to make friends. The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Some council members were already on their phones, likely warning their governments to begin preparations. Others sat in stunned silence, still processing the reality of the situation. "What are our options?" asked Representative Zhang from the Chinese delegation, her voice cutting through the chaos. Admiral Lee's expression remained neutral, but those who knew her well could see the hint of a knowing look in her eyes. "We've already sent them our response, with the full backing of the Security Council." She pulled up another display showing Earth's reply. "Approach at your own risk. This is your only warning." "That's it?" someone asked incredulously. "That's all we're going to say to an alien invasion fleet." The Admiral's lip curved slightly. Sometimes the simplest messages are the most effective. Besides, she paused, looking around the room, we don't need to say more. They'll understand soon enough. Defense Minister Kapoor spoke up from his seat near the front. "Perhaps we should show them why they should take our warning seriously. Give them a demonstration of our capabilities." "No," the Admiral replied firmly. "The element of surprise remains our greatest advantage. Let them think we're primitive. Let them underestimate us. It's worked for the past 50 years. There's no reason to change our strategy now." The council chamber's lights dimmed automatically as a new hologram appeared, showing Earth's orbital defense grid. To anyone scanning from outside, it would appear to be nothing but satellites and space debris. The truth was far more impressive. All defense platforms are operational and standing by. The Admiral continued. Ground-based installations are at full readiness. The lunar defense batteries are primed. If they choose to ignore our warning. She let the sentence hang in the air. President Patel stood, his movement drawing all eyes in the room. "Then we proceed as planned. Admiral, you have full authorization to execute Protocol Omega if the aliens continue their advance. May whatever gods they believe in have mercy on their souls if they choose to test us." The Admiral nodded solemnly. As she gathered her materials, she glanced once more at the alien fleet's trajectory. Humanity had hidden its true capabilities for decades, preparing for this very moment. The public lived their lives never knowing that their governments had united in secret, building defenses that could shatter planets. In her office later that evening, Admiral Lee watched the sun setting over the Pacific. Her computer chimed with an update. The alien fleet had passed Neptune's orbit, showing no signs of slowing. Their arrogance would be their downfall. She picked up her secure phone and dialed a familiar number. When the other end picked up, she spoke just 4 words: "Wake up the science team." In underground laboratories and hidden facilities around the world, lights began turning on. Decades of preparation were about to be put to the test. Humanity had been given its first warning of alien life 50 years ago, when a damaged scout ship crashed in the Gobi Desert. They'd spent every moment since then getting ready. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would surrender at the first sign of superior technology. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Dr. Singh stood before a wall of screens showing humanity's greatest secret. The quantum defense grid sparkled like a web of stars around Earth, invisible to all but the most advanced sensors humanity had developed. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he asked, adjusting his glasses as Admiral Lee entered the control room. 30 years of my life, right there on those screens. And now we might actually have to use it. The Admiral walked up beside him, her boots clicking on the polished floor. "Tell me everything's ready." "Oh, it's ready." Dr. Singh tapped a few commands into his console, bringing up detailed readouts of the defense platforms. Each satellite contains an antimatter reactor powerful enough to run a small city. The weapons. He paused, still amazed by what they'd created. Well, let's just say physics gets interesting when you can tear holes in space-time. Above them, hidden cameras captured their conversation for historical records. Everyone in the facility knew these might be humanity's last hours, or its finest. The public still thinks we're decades away from reaching Mars, the Admiral mused, watching technicians hurry past with data tablets. If they only knew we've had faster-than-light travel since 2157. Dr. Singh nodded. That crashed alien ship in the Gobi taught us more than just technology. It taught us to be prepared, to be patient, to hide our strength until we needed it. Warning lights suddenly flashed across the screens. One of the younger technicians called out, "Multiple contacts just crossed the Mars orbit. They're accelerating." The Admiral's phone buzzed. A message from the Defense Council. She read it and turned to Dr. Singh. "Start the warm-up sequence, but keep everything in stealth mode. Let's see how close they want to get before they realize their mistake." Dr. Singh's fingers flew across the holographic controls. Around Earth, thousands of hidden weapons platforms began drawing power from their antimatter cores. The energy buildup was massive, but quantum camouflage kept it hidden from prying eyes. "You know what's funny?" Dr. Singh said as he worked. "They probably think they're being generous, offering to incorporate us into their hegemony. They see our old satellites, our primitive space stations, and think we're easy prey." A technician interrupted with another update. "Sir, ma'am, we're detecting energy signatures from their fleet. Looks like they're charging weapons." The Admiral straightened her uniform. "Typical. They don't even bother trying to talk first anymore. How many worlds do you think they've conquered this way?" "Too many," Dr. Singh replied grimly. "But they've never met humans before. We're not like the others. We saw them coming. We got ready." On the main screen, the alien fleet spread out into an attack formation. They were confident, methodical, and completely unaware of the net they were swimming into. The Admiral watched the display with calm determination. "Send the final warning," she ordered. "Let's give them one last chance to turn around." As the message was transmitted, Dr. Singh pulled up an old photo on his personal tablet. The original science team that had started this project, standing in front of the alien wreck in the Gobi. So young then, so amazed by what they'd found. Now their work would either save humanity or... He pushed the thought away. The defense grid was ready. Humanity was ready. All they could do now was wait and see if the aliens were smart enough to take the hint. Looking at their formation, though, he doubted it. "Pride goes before a fall," his grandmother used to say. And this pride was about to fall, a very, very long way. On the bridge of the Hegemony flagship, High Commander Zixtal watched the blue-green planet growing larger on the main view screen. His scales rippled with amusement as another warning message from Earth scrolled across his data feed. "They're persistent, aren't they?" he rumbled to his bridge crew. 57 worlds we've conquered, and they all try the same thing. Threats, warnings, please go aways. He waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Show me our scan results again." The holographic display lit up, showing Earth's orbital space, primitive communication satellites, a handful of basic space stations, and scattered debris from their early space exploration efforts. Nothing that could possibly threaten a hegemony battle fleet. "Such a waste of resources," his science officer noted, examining the data. "They still use chemical rockets to reach their own moon. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear fission devices, practically Stone Age technology." Zixtal's second-in-command approached with a data tablet. "Sir, the fleet is in position. All ships report weapons charged and ready. Shall we begin the standard intimidation display?" Yes, Zixtal said, settling into his command chair. "Let's give them the usual light show. It typically convinces half of them to surrender before we fire a shot." The hegemony ships activated their energy shields, creating rippling patterns of light visible from Earth's surface. It was a tested strategy. Show the primitive species how hopelessly outmatched they were, and many would give up without a fight. "Sir," a sensor operator called out, "we're detecting some unusual energy fluctuations in the debris field. Probably their primitive radar systems getting confused by our shields," Zixtal replied. "Nothing to worry about. What's our casualty projection if they resist?" The tactical officer consulted his displays. Based on their current military capability, less than 1,000 hegemony casualties, mostly from their nuclear weapons. Their own losses, he paused, calculating, approximately 60% of the population. Zixtal nodded absently. It was always the same. Show of force, token resistance, submission, integration. The hegemony had perfected this dance long ago. These humans would learn their place, just like all the others. "Sir," the sensor operator's voice rose with sudden concern. "Those energy fluctuations, they're increasing. I'm not sure what I'm detecting." "Calm yourself, officer," Zixtal scolded. "Their primitive technology can't possibly." The tactical officer interrupted, multiple new contacts appearing. They were hidden in the debris field. "Impossible," Zixtal snapped, rising from his chair. "Our sensors are the most advanced in known space. Nothing could hide from." The main screen filled with new signals as thousands of previously invisible platforms suddenly appeared in Earth orbit. The energy readings were off the scale, unlike anything the hegemony had encountered in centuries of conquest. By the first egg, the science officer whispered, "Those aren't debris. Those are weapon platforms. And those energy signatures, they're using antimatter reactions." For the first time in his long career, Zixtal felt a chill of fear run down his spine. The human's final warning message flashed again on his screen. "Approach at your own risk. Send the abort signal," he commanded, but even as the words left his mouth, he knew it was too late. His mighty fleet, the pride of the hegemony, had sailed straight into a trap 50 years in the making. The last thing Zixtal saw before the defense grid activated was Earth's orbital space lighting up with more power than a dying sun. His final thought was a bitter realization. They should have listened to the warning. The United Earth Defense Headquarters buzzed with activity as Dr. Patel, Earth's lead linguist, made one final attempt to prevent bloodshed. Her team had spent years studying the language patterns from the crashed alien ship, and now that knowledge might save millions of lives. "The translation matrix is ready," she announced, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "I've included visual proof of our capabilities. If they have any sense at all, they'll understand what they're seeing." The massive screens around her workstation showed footage from Project Aegis's weapons tests, carefully controlled demonstrations where antimatter weapons had shattered small moons in the outer solar system. The images were crystal clear, a flash of light, then a moon cracking apart like an egg. "Send it," Admiral Lee ordered. "Let's see if they're wise enough to listen." Dr. Patel's fingers flew across the holographic interface as she transmitted the message. "I've included technical specifications of our defense grid. Nothing classified, but enough to prove we're not bluffing." The response came almost immediately. Laughter. The alien commanders had transmitted actual recordings of their bridge crew laughing at Earth's message. "They think it's fake," one of the junior analysts said, shaking his head. "They'd really believe we're just making this up." Dr. Patel leaned back in her chair, a mix of frustration and sadness crossing her face. 57 conquered worlds. They're so used to being the most advanced species in the room, they can't imagine someone hiding their true capabilities. The main display showed the alien fleet continuing its advance, now passing the asteroid belt. Their energy shields sparkled like false stars, meant to intimidate rather than protect. "Look at them," Admiral Lee said quietly. "All that technology, and they still think fancy lights will scare us into submission. Did they even bother checking why Earth never developed an interplanetary defense system? Did they wonder why we seemed so calm about their approach?" Dr. Patel tried one last time, sending a simple message in the hegemony's own language. "Your scans are wrong. Your assumptions are wrong. Your failure to listen will cost your people dearly. Turn back now." The aliens responded by powering up their main weapons. "Well," Dr. Patel sighed, "I tried. No one can say we didn't give them every chance to avoid this." On her screen, data streamed in from the quantum defense grid. Each platform was armed with weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, hoping they'd never have to use these terrible weapons. "Send word to all stations," Admiral Lee commanded. "Begin final countdown. Give them 30 seconds to change their minds." The command center fell silent except for the soft beeping of computers. Dr. Patel watched the alien fleet on her screen, still advancing with such confidence. In their arrogance, they'd forgotten one of humanity's most important traits. We're really good at learning from our mistakes. That crashed ship in the Gobi had taught humanity two crucial lessons. We weren't alone in the universe, and we needed to be ready. While the public went about their lives, the world's governments had worked together in secret, building defenses that could stop even the most powerful alien fleet. Now, watching the countdown tick away, Dr. Patel couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity for the aliens. They were about to learn a very hard lesson about underestimating humanity. The 30-second warning went out. The aliens responded by accelerating. In the depths of the mountain facility, Admiral Lee stood before the primary control console. Her hand rested on the biometric scanner, one of 3 required to activate humanity's ultimate defense system. The weight of billions of lives pressed down on her shoulders like a physical force. "Final status report," she commanded, her voice echoing in the hushed command center. Dr. Singh's fingers moved across his console, checking each system one last time. All defense platforms show green. Quantum targeting is locked. Antimatter containment fields are stable. He paused, looking up at the main screen. "They're still coming, ma'am." The alien fleet filled the display, their ships arranged in an attack formation designed to look intimidating. They had no idea they were flying into the most sophisticated trap ever created by human hands. "Time to weapons range," the Admiral asked. 4 minutes, 30 seconds, a young lieutenant replied. Her hands were steady on the controls despite the tension in the room. The Defense Council's authorization had come through moments ago. A simple message reading "Execute Protocol Omega." Now they just needed final confirmation from the underground research facility where it had all started. Dr. Singh's screen lit up with an incoming transmission. Getting visual from the Gobi facility now. The weathered face of Dr. Zhang appeared on the main display. Behind him stood the remnants of the alien scout ship that had crashed 50 years ago. the warning that had united humanity in secret preparation. "The calculations are confirmed," Dr. Zhang reported. "If we fire, the space-time disruption will be contained to their fleet only. Earth and our defense grid will be unaffected." Admiral Li nodded slowly. "And there's no way to target their engines. Disable them without destruction." "No, ma'am," Dr. Singh replied. "Their shield technology makes precision targeting impossible. It's all or nothing." On the tactical display, the alien fleet continued its advance. Their weapons were fully charged now, ready to rain death on an Earth they thought was defenseless. 3 minutes to weapons range, the lieutenant announced. Admiral Li straightened her uniform. "Send the final warning. 30 seconds to withdraw or face the consequences." The message went out in all known frequencies and languages. On the main screen, they watched the alien fleet's response. Not only did they not withdraw, they increased speed. 2 minutes, 30 seconds to weapons range. Dr. Singh spoke quietly. "They still think we're bluffing. After everything we showed them, they just can't believe a primitive species could threaten them." "Pride," Admiral Li said softly. "It's killed more people than any weapon ever made." The seconds ticked down. In orbit, thousands of quantum-cloaked platforms tracked every alien vessel with perfect precision. 50 years of preparation had led to this moment. 1 minute to weapons range. Admiral Li placed her hand firmly on the scanner. Across the room, Dr. Singh did the same with his console. At the Gobi facility, Dr. Zhang stood ready at the third control station. 30 seconds. The alien fleet's energy signatures spiked. They were preparing to fire their first salvos at Earth's primitive defenses. "They've had every chance," Admiral Li said, more to herself than anyone else. "Every warning. Every opportunity to turn back." 10 seconds to weapons range. She took a deep breath, thinking of all the worlds that had fallen to the hegemony's arrogance. Earth would not be number 58. Begin final countdown. Time seemed to slow down in the command center as the final countdown began. Each second stretched like an eternity as the alien fleet drew closer to their doom. 30 seconds, the lieutenant announced, her voice steady. On the massive display screen, the hegemony ships looked like predators moving in for the kill. Their energy shields created beautiful patterns against the darkness of space, a light show meant to terrify their victims into submission. 25 seconds. Dr. Singh's monitor suddenly lit up with new data. Energy spike. They're powering up their main weapons. 20 seconds. Admiral Li watched the tactical display with iron calm. Around Earth, thousands of hidden defense platforms silently tracked their targets. Each quantum-locked weapon was ready to tear a hole in the fabric of space itself. 15 seconds. The first alien sensor officer noticed something wrong. The debris field around Earth was giving off strange energy readings. High Commander Zixtal demanded answers from his crew. 10 seconds. The quantum camouflage began to fail, deliberately revealing Earth's true defenses. The aliens finally saw what they were really facing. A web of advanced weapon platforms that made their own technology look primitive. 5 seconds. Panic spread through the alien fleet as they realized their terrible mistake. Emergency signals flashed between ships as they desperately tried to reverse course. Their mighty engines flared, but physics itself worked against them. They were too close, moving too fast to escape. 4. High Commander Zixtal screamed orders to his fleet, but it was too late. The trap had already closed. 3. Dr. Singh's hands flew across his console, making final adjustments. All platforms report ready. Targeting solutions locked. 2. Admiral Li took one final breath. "Remember this moment," she said to everyone in the command center. "Remember that we gave them every chance to walk away." 1. The defense grid activated. In orbit, thousands of platforms fired simultaneously. Space itself seemed to scream as reality tore open around the alien fleet. The weapons didn't destroy their ships. They erased them from existence. The command center's main screen showed the awesome and terrible sight. Where moments ago there had been 300 warships, now there were only expanding rings of light as space-time reasserted itself. "Target status," Admiral Lee demanded. Dr. Singh checked his readings. 299 ships confirmed. Eliminated. Wait. He adjusted his display. One vessel remains. The smallest in their fleet. Our targeting systems deliberately spared it. Admiral Lee nodded. As planned. They need survivors to tell the story. She turned to communications. Send our final message to the remaining ship. Above Earth, a single alien vessel hung motionless among the fading ripples of disturbed spacetime. Its sensors had recorded everything. Its crew had watched their invincible fleet vanish in less than 10 seconds. The message they received was simple: return to your hegemony. Tell them what happened when they ignored humanity's warning. We will not be conquered. They didn't need to be told twice. The surviving ship's engines flared bright as fusion fire as it fled at maximum speed, carrying word of the hegemony's greatest defeat. In the command center, someone started to cheer, but Admiral Lee raised her hand for silence. "We didn't want this," she said quietly. "We offered peace. We gave warnings. They chose not to listen." She looked around at her crew. "Let's hope the next aliens we meet are wiser." 1 week after the battle, Admiral Lee stood at the United Earth Defense Council podium. The room was packed with representatives from every nation, all waiting to hear how the world would change now that humanity's greatest secret was revealed. "The surviving hegemony ship has passed beyond our solar system," she reported, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "Our long-range sensors show it's broadcasting continuously. The message is spreading across their empire." On the main screen, data streamed in from deep space monitoring stations. The hegemony's communication networks were buzzing with activity as news of their fleet's destruction spread from world to world. "What are they saying?" asked the council president, leaning forward in his chair. Dr. Singh stepped up to the podium, holding his data tablet. "They're calling it the Earth Incident. Their entire empire is in shock. 300 ships, the pride of their fleet, gone in seconds." He adjusted his glasses. "Some of their worlds are already calling for independence. The myth of hegemony invincibility is shattered." The council chamber filled with murmurs. For 50 years, they had carried the weight of this secret. Now, finally, they could show the world what humanity had achieved. "The public will have questions," Admiral Lee continued. "They'll want to know how we built all this in secret, how we managed to unite every nation on Earth for a common purpose." "Show them the ship," Dr. Singh suggested. "The one that crashed in the Gobi. Let them see what warned us, what gave us time to prepare." The Admiral nodded. On the screen behind her, images appeared of the alien scout ship that had changed humanity's destiny. Its damaged hull still bore the scars of whatever battle had brought it to Earth 50 years ago. "We learned 2 things from that crash," she told the council. "First, that we weren't alone in the universe. And second, that some of our neighbors weren't friendly. We could have panicked. We could have started wars over who would control this technology. Instead, we chose to work together." The room fell silent as images played across the screen. Decades of secret cooperation, underground facilities where scientists from former enemy nations worked side by side, test flights of humanity's first faster-than-light ships. The hegemony thought they were the most advanced civilization in this part of space, Dr. Singh added. They never imagined that a primitive species could hide its true capabilities. Their arrogance was their weakness. And now, someone asked from the back of the room, "What happens next?" Admiral Lee smiled slightly. "Now we wait. The galaxy knows about us. They know what happened when the hegemony tried to conquer Earth. Our reputation will spread, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as a civilization that shouldn't be underestimated." "There are other alien species out there," Dr. Singh reminded everyone. "Some might be friendly. Some might be like the hegemony. But they'll all know what happened here. They'll all think twice before threatening Earth. The council president stood, drawing everyone's attention. Then it's time. Prepare the public announcement. The world deserves to know how close we came to invasion, and how humanity's unity saved us all. As the council members filed out, Admiral Lee stayed behind, looking at the images of the defense grid still displayed on the main screen. Humanity had passed its first real test among the stars. They hadn't started the fight, but they had finished it. You know, Dr. Singh said quietly beside her, somewhere out there, that surviving ship is still running, still telling everyone about the day they learned not to underestimate Earth. The Admiral nodded. Let's hope they're good storytellers, because this story might just keep peace in our corner of the galaxy for a very long time.